So, I recently managed to get my hands on and finish Journey to the West, and it got me thinking. I like Dragon Ball and Enslaved, so how do they and other adaptations compare to the original? How accurate are they, and how influential has this been to Eastern media? So, that's what I'm going to do right now. Now, not every version of Journey to the West is the same, so I should preface this video with this. I'm comparing it to the research that I have done and the version of the book I have read. I should also say that I am mostly focusing on Enslaved and Dragon Ball, but I will take into consideration other stories and appearances as well. I also know that other homages are not direct adaptations, but I do still want to see how they compare. The biggest and most obvious difference with any adaptation of this book is the plot. Most stories with ties to this usually go with the actual adventure, but for some reason the book I read had half the book as just the backstory for Monkey. I get that his story is important, but half the book? We need to get through a journey just to get to the Journey to the West, apparently. But yeah, the basic gist is this. A monkey person travels with a woman and other characters on a journey to India to deliver some scriptures. That part remains the same. Kind of. I'll get to that later. When it comes to Dragon Ball, the Journey to the West influences carry through the whole series in subtle ways, but the most obvious influence is only the first arc. It's very obvious how fast that dropped. And with Enslaved, it's very different given the change from an ancient China to the not-at-all cliché Robo-Apocalypse. Monkey Hero, a game for the PS1, also varies its plot quite a bit. You have a singular villain, and the overall plot focuses on Monkey collecting all the pages of a magic storybook. Journey to the West, Conquering the Demons, is also a prequel to the actual journey, akin to the first half of a very misnamed book the more I think about it. I do find it funny though, as most adaptations or references or even the original story over time made Monkey the protagonist. Monkey is an important character, but the main protagonist is Tripitaka. I guess Homo sapiens relate more with simians than Homo sapiens. There's a joke there somewhere. But yeah, the story is supposed to be about Tripitaka's, journey to the West. The other characters are his bodyguards, but since Monkey was the most useful, I guess he just got more spotlight. Also, for the main story being about the journey, Lord of the Rings style, they do a time skip. Skipping out on the journey. A few chapters are used to explain how Tripitaka gets his disciples, and then skips years later to the most well-known story, the Flaming Mountain and the Iron Fan. However, I think that's just this particular version of the book that skips out on the journey.
Oh, fucking course.
As research I have done indicates that there's actually a journey here. Fancy that! I did find it a little odd when reading this book that the stuff that I researched was not present. For example, I remember that the Gold and Silver brothers from Naruto were inspired from characters from this story. They were nowhere to be found, yet they are in the story. Just not the one I had, apparently. Other adaptations usually have a nice nod to other stories, but unless it's a straight adaptation, their premises are expected to differ. Kinda wish I knew about these other stories, though. Maybe the version I just read is just bad. Still enjoyable all around, but I really would have preferred more Journey. Here's a piece of information that is pretty much tainted thanks to history. Journey to the West is a true story. Now, I can't see your faces, but I can just feel the skepticism. People telling me to fuck off with the lying bullshit, and those who let the video. No, not yet. Let me explain. The story is an extended account of the legendary pilgrimage of a Buddhist monk named, I'm gonna butcher his name, Xuanzang, who traveled to the western regions, that is, Central Asia and India, to obtain Buddhist sacred texts and return after many trials and a lot of suffering. For some reason, folklore was added to the story, making him have anthropomorphic animals joining him to atone for their sins. That's a hell of a stretch. Seeing as how the characters are a very strong theme for this book, let me go over the main ones. Tripitaka is the monk tasked with going west. He's a pacifist and said to look very effeminate. Probably why most adaptations just make him a woman. Monkey is easily the most powerful and most useful. Able to turn into anything and make up 72 copies of himself, jump on clouds, etc. Now that I think about it, if Goku could transform and be smart and strategic about it, early Dragon Ball Goku would have been broken, although surprisingly nowhere near as broken as he is becoming. I suppose that his grade 8 porn could be a reference to this, though. Obviously, Enslaved leaves out this as it's more realistic. Leave it to real life to ruin everything. He is obviously the most well-known part of the story, seeing as how he appears in a lot of media. Pigsy is the pervert pig who's just there to help. Yeah, a little hard to talk about the other characters when everything focuses on Monkey, and whenever there are more characters there, they just assist. No choreography, just they fight for a bit. Anyway, he was once a man, but being just a normal human being enveloped by lust and greed, was turned into a fat pig. Fitting! He then ate people. Moving on, then. Sandy is the first forgotten child. What I mean is that most adaptations usually just have Tripitaka, Monkey, and Pigsy, and do not usually have the other two. Sandy is a sand monster who is atoning for the fact that he broke glassware in heaven. When he was turned to a monster, he also began eating people. The more I say this out loud, the more it sounds like a terrible fanfic for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Enslaved has no equivalent, and I guess the closest we got for a Dragon Ball is Yamcha. The second forgotten child is Dragon Horse. He was a dragon that ate Tripitaka's horse, and to atone, had to turn into a horse for Tripitaka to ride on. He is so forgotten that even the original author almost forgot about him. In my book, he doesn't do anything substantial until he is redeemed, but I have researched that he does do something to help out in some versions. Man, it's really hard to tell what the original intention was when the book is retold and translated so many different times. It makes the true understanding of what was said by the author very vague and skewed. It is fascinating, though, that this story that is widely thought for kids when it's actually very adult. I guess the final thing I want to talk about is this. Does it matter to compare them? Overall, no. These other things may pay homage to it, or be straight-up adaptations, but there's really no need to compare. However, it is fascinating to see where these homages and references come from. I'm glad that I finally got to read this historic and highly influential book. Thus ends a surprisingly educational and informational video. Now, enough of that stupid paper stuff, back to electronic media that gives me so many headaches.